In this section, we're going to start looking at Ansible's when construct. So Ansible has a way that you can put conditionals into a playbook. And by conditionals, I mean what typically would be written as if, elif, else, those kind of constructs that you see very commonly in programming languages. So there's a way in Ansible that we can embed those inside our playbook. So let's start looking at that. So here I have a very simple playbook. It's just going to operate on localhost. It's only going to execute the debug task, and it's just going to print out the message, hello world. If I execute this, you'll see that I get one task executed. We get this message, hello world, to come back to the screen. Now I can add to the end of this, I can add a statement where I say when, colon, and then I can put false. So when is basically the conditional. Whatever is after the conditional, in this case false, it's going to either evaluate to true or it's going to evaluate to false. If it evaluates to false, this task is skipped. If it evaluates to true, the task is executed. We'll go ahead and repeat our playbook execution. We see now that it's skipping that task, that evaluated to false, that when statement, and it's no longer executing. If we go back in here, we copy these 3 lines, we change the second one. Now I'm going to start adding name tags so we can keep track of what we're doing a little bit better. I'll say hard-coded to false. And there's some things I got to clean up there. I need to get rid of that. Need to get rid of that. I'm going to make this second one be hard-coded to true. This one will say hello world is false. Hello world is true. Okay, so hard-coded to false. Debug message when false. Okay, let's go ahead and execute this. So here we see it skipping the hard-coded to false. It's executing the hard-coded to true task. Now, we can expand on this, and we can say, let's go ahead and add a variable here. So we can say vars colon my string, make it be equal to whatever. Now, as opposed to saying when true, we could say when my underscore str equals whatever. Now notice this is the Python double equals, so the Python equality, it's saying is my string equal to this. That's either going to evaluate to true or that's going to evaluate to false. And then we could say testing string equality, and then let's say let's print out whatever in this case. Go ahead and re-execute our playbook. So here's the ones we did previously. Here we get to testing string equality, and you see it did pass that condition. Now this could not only be equals equals, it could also be not equals. Let's go ahead and test that. This time it fails. So the string is equal to whatever. So this condition is false. It skips this entire task. You can also do, copy this again. You can do substring in a larger string. So let's go up to my string and make a my string. Let's make like a version and say Cisco iOS running version 15.2. If we go down in here, if we say Cisco iOS is in version. Now, Ansible is not going to like that because when it sees this starting string, it thinks the string should go all the way to the end of the line. So it requires that I enclose this whole thing inside a string. So here I'm going to say when Cisco iOS in version. So here's the substring, and here's the broader string, the broader variable it's looking through, and it's going to be looking for that. So that should evaluate to true. And we could say something like this is Cisco iOS. So here's our substring in a larger string. Another pattern we can test is defined, undefined. So you can say this variable is defined. We'll go down to when, and we'll say version is defined. If that variable is defined, execute this task. You see that executes. And there's also a corresponding undefined. One last one I want to show you. Let me grab it from this notes. I'm going to grab this one. Okay. Get rid of my tags, get rid of my tags. Now notice here I'm executing the command module. This is just going to execute the bin false Unix command. It's going to save the results. So let's go ahead and just manually run that. Now if I see what the return value for that command is, you see it returns a 1. So in Unix, if the command ran successfully, it would return a 0. If the command was not successful, it's going to return a non-zero value. So bin false always returns a value indicating it failed. So if I go into my playbook and I comment out this ignore errors, and for the minute I'm going to comment out this last debug statement, and run this, so at the system level, it's going to run bin false. It's going to save the whatever happened there into a variable known as result. But let's watch this execution. So we see here that our playbook failed. So it got to the very end and our playbook failed. Now, we can tell Ansible, hey, I know it's going to fail here. Ignore errors if it does. So this way it'll still get a error on the command, but the playbook won't stop executing. And then I go on to my next command, this debug command, and I look at the result variable, which I saved up here, and then I pipe it through a filter. So this is using a Jinja 2 filter, and we're going to talk a lot more about filters here coming up probably in the next class. And then I say if it failed or if it succeeded. So here I'm testing, did the last command, did it fail or did it succeed? If it failed, it's going to execute this message. So some debugging message. And we could change this to succeeded if we wanted to. So we're doing a conditional check on whether the last command was, whether it failed in this case. Go ahead and execute that playbook. So we still see we get an error. We see that Ansible is continuing onward with this ignoring, and then we see it executed the debug command because this last command was in the failed status. So Key takeaways here is that, and the key takeaway from this is that Ansible provides you with this conditional construct, this when construct, that lets you control whether various things in your playbook are going to execute or not. And then there's various ways that you can construct the expression that is being evaluated. So here we hard coded it. Here we used equals equals. We could have also used not equals. Here I did substring in broader string. Here I checked whether a variable was defined. And then finally I looked at whether the last command failed. And obviously we could do the opposite and say whether the last command succeeded.